Listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and this time we are talking about how there is now hope for more high-quality Nintendo remasters on the way. What do I mean exactly? Well, that's what we're talking about today. Before we go further, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. With your help, it just might be possible. So about a week and a half ago, we got the June Nintendo Direct. It came a little bit later into the month. And with this Nintendo Direct, we got announcements for a number of games to come out for the second half of the year. And shortly after this Direct came out, I made a video talking about how, from my perspective, this Direct made it very clear that we are transitioning over to the next generation. And I got a lot of flack for that. And I think I understand why to some extent. One, because when you talk about moving on to next generation, people are thinking, oh, but that means my current Switch isn't as legitimate anymore, it's not going to have as many high quality games. I think there's a little bit of that fear whenever we talk about Switch 2. But then also some took it to mean that I was saying that the Direct was bad, and that's not what I was trying to say. I think the Direct gave us a number of high-quality games to look forward to, and I think the Nintendo Switch, regardless of what happens with the Switch 2, regardless if it's announced this year, next year, or beyond, I think Switch games will continue to come for the next few years, and it's going to stay relevant, so you shouldn't have to worry about your Switch. There are high-quality games still coming, it's still relevant, nothing to worry about, but eventually Nintendo is going to transition over, and when they do, it's believed by many, myself included, that there's going to be a transitional period where for 2 to 3 years, both systems will be supported at the same time. I've brought this up many times. Look at how Nintendo handled 3DS. Switch came out in 2017. 3DS was still receiving games by Nintendo. Published titles were coming out by Nintendo until 2019. So there's no fear there. But what was made so clear to me from that Direct is that Nintendo is now putting out more high quality remasters and remakes as opposed to beforehand, and what this suggests is that we are now entering the later years of the Switch era where they're transitioning over to next generation. Because if you look at the 3DS era, the last few games, a lot of them were remakes or enhanced ports. Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey, Luigi's Mansion Remake, a port of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Metroid Samus Returns, Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. All these games came out between 2017 and 19, while the Switch was out, but these were all enhanced remakes or ports of some kind. But for the 3DS, they were fantastic remakes and remasters. They were great games for the 3DS to close out its generation. And that's what I think we're looking at with Switch to some extent. It won't happen exactly in the same way, but that's what I believe is happening, and the Direct made that very clear to me. Now, something I wish I did with that initial video was go over all the numbers and put it out there plainly for people to see, but I didn't have the time to put the numbers together until now. So if you look at every single year of Switch, I accounted for all the published titles, including things that were enhanced ports or ports of some kind, remakes, remasters, and brand new games. They were published by Nintendo, and some of these games were only published in particular regions. And for the record, counting these games that were only in certain regions hurts the ratios for my argument. But when we go over the numbers, I think it becomes fairly clear what direction we're headed in. So in 2017, there were 11 published titles if you account for Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. And 2 of those games were remakes or enhanced ports, an 11:2 ratio, or 18% being remakes or ports. In 2018, there were 18 published titles with 4 remakes or ports, bringing us at 22%, so we went up from the prior year. But then in 2019, it dipped way down, 17 published titles, 2 remakes or ports. In 2020, it shot up to 30% with 13 published titles and 4 remakes or ports. And then 2021 it held to about the same number, 17 published titles with 5 remakes or ports. And then in 2022, interestingly, there were 12 published Nintendo titles, and only one of which was a remake or port, so just 8% for the year. But now with this current year of 2023, now that Nintendo has announced their current slate of games, we're looking at a 11-to-6 ratio, 11 published Nintendo titles, 6 of which are remakes or enhanced ports of some kind. That brings us to a 54% ratio. That is a high number. There are more remakes and ports coming out this year than other published Nintendo titles. Now, you could call this a cop-out because I'm counting Pikmin 1 and 2 as individual releases on this list. So if you don't want to count those, if you just want to exclude them all together, it's 44%, which is still a record high. But I count them because they are individual releases that you can have on your Switch page. But here's the even crazier part. Nintendo came out with Metroid Prime Remastered out of nowhere during the February Nintendo Direct. It was announced and released on the same day on the Switch eShop, and then a few weeks later, there was a physical version. And then with this recent Direct, as we've just been discussing with Pikmin 1 and 2, they've done the same thing. Pikmin 1 and 2 were made available the same day as announcement on the Switch eShop, and physical versions are coming out a little bit later. That's 2 Directs in a row where they've done something like this. If Nintendo does it again with the later year Nintendo Direct, which pretty much always happens in September, then that's one more game, potentially, if not even 2, to add to that list, making the ratio even more lopsided. And I think there's a pretty good chance this is going to happen. So ultimately what I'm getting at here is that yes, it looks like we are in the transitional period where there will be more remakes and remasters coming out for Switch, but that isn't a bad thing. For the next few years, there's going to be a lot more high quality titles like this, and I know a lot of people here watching this video are looking forward to more remakes and remasters for Switch. Super Mario RPG is an announcement that is a dream title for so many people. Metroid Prime Remastered made my February, and Pikmin 1 and 2 have been nice releases that are really nice holdover until Pikmin 4. And then even next year, we already have the announcement of the visually enhanced Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, so there's already another one coming out next year. But I'll also point out that we have the rumor for F-Zero GX, and I believe that is totally true. There's a lot of sources on this. So that's a whole other game that could be coming out in the not so distant future. Maybe it shall drop this September, or maybe it comes out a little bit later down the road. Another pair of games that people have been asking for a very long time, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. I do think these will eventually come to Switch, but if we assume Switch 2 is around the corner, some people may be losing hope in this. But if you account for the fact that, like 3DS, it lasted years into Switch's life cycle, I think Switch is going to be getting games for a few more years, and I believe that will include Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. Those could maybe even come out next year or the year after, once Nintendo moves on from Tears of the Kingdom. And what I'm alluding to here is that there may be some kind of DLC expansion pass for Tears of the Kingdom, but once that's completed, I think within a year or so, we could see Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. That's totally possible. And there are the rumors of Kid Icarus Uprising coming to Switch as well, thanks to the Bandai Namco listings, which is just straight up information, but we just don't know what sort of remaster they're working on. When we account for the fact that Masahiro Sakurai, the man behind Kid Icarus Uprising, has suggested it should come to Switch, that may be on the way as well. And there are also the rumors of Metroid Prime 2 and 3. These are rumored alongside Metroid Prime Remastered. And Metroid Prime Remastered is true, and if you consider how Nintendo has had this tendency to release the entire series of games before the big major release, there's a really good chance we're going to see Metroid Prime 2 and 3 before Prime 4. And I'm personally thinking that that September Direct shall drop announcement is going to be Metroid Prime 2, potentially Metroid Prime 3 as well. The idea is that Metroid Prime Remastered was going to be the big boy remaster in the words of Jeff Grubb, the originator of this particular rumor, but that 2 and 3 would come later down the road, implying that 2 and 3 aren't going to have as much work done, which may be disappointing to some, but that doesn't mean they won't get some level of improvement. And what's really fascinating about this most recent Nintendo Direct is that yes, they announced Pikmin 1 and 2 upscaled into HD with enhanced controls on the Switch at discounted prices. I think this is exactly how Nintendo's going to also handle Metroid Prime 2 and 3. I think maybe during this September Nintendo Direct, if not this Direct, a future Direct, but in the not so distant future, because I think Prime 4 isn't that far off according to rumors and all of that, once they show off Prime 4, they're going to a shadow drop 2 and 3 at discounted prices on the Switch eShop and maybe announce physical versions to come out a few weeks later. Maintain this pattern of shadow dropped announcements. And even if it's not Prime 2 and 3 this September, something may come. Maybe it's F-Zero, maybe it's Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD, maybe it's Kid Icarus Uprising, maybe it's a whole other title that hasn't been brought up yet. There's a number of possibilities. It's not just GameCube remasters, as Emily Rogers suggested a while ago. It's just Nintendo games. GameCube, yes. Wii, yes. Look at Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. 3DS, yes. Look at Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, opening the door for other 3DS remasters like Kid Icarus Uprising. And just good games like from the Super Nintendo era, like Super Mario RPG. So all signs point to more Nintendo remakes and remasters on the way. And in no way do I think this is a bad thing. I think this is a fantastic thing. And if anything, during the Switch era, Nintendo has shown that they do a better job of handling these remakes and remasters more so than before. A lot of these releases have had enhanced new content, such as Return to Dreamland Deluxe and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. The jury's still out on Super Mario RPG, it might have new content. The F-Zero GX remaster that Next Level Games is rumored to be working on, they might be adding some content here because Next Level Games is a pretty big studio from Nintendo. It's not just a small studio that they outsourced the project to. Of course, it's a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt, but my overall point here is that there's plenty of hope and reason to be excited for a number of quality Nintendo remasters and remakes to come to Switch within the next few years. So even if it is the case that Switch 2 is around the corner, if you're one of those that's concerned about this, there's really no need. There are tons of games to come for a few more years, and it's going to be a good time. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.